So I try to tell young people, take advantage of high school, take hard courses, take challenging courses, and don't worry about your grades. It's more important that you challenge yourself. And read books, maybe more on that later, but read books because they really are good for your imagination and helping you learn about things that other people have done. People spend too much time like scrolling through their phones. And scrolling makes you dumb. And books make you smart. So I encourage people like read books. So hopefully that answers your question. But I do want to say what I learned this after four-step process of dealing with mistakes. My first mission in space, I was the first woman pilot on the space shuttle, so I did not want to make a mistake because I thought they would say, people outside of NASA would say, oh look, the woman did it, which some people do that. So it was very important for me not to make a mistake. So I developed a four-step process of dealing with mistakes in case I made one, which I did. You admit your mistake, number one. Number two, you fix it. Number three, do something to prevent it from happening again to you or someone else. And number four is you move on mentally, get your head back in the mission. And I have a lot of examples of that. And I taught my kids that, and they're always like, Mom, stop talking about your four-step process. Mistakes, but they will remember that. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Great question, thank you.
Next question. Well, who's next?
Hi, Eileen. Big fan. My grandfather was in the Air Force, and I love everything space. I really think that you're a trailblazer, being the first woman to pilot a shuttle. So I have two questions, really. Bigger than a fan, but in the command room, obviously the four-step thing, you needed that. And I feel like there was some sort of, because of your gender, there was a lot of, doubts. Have you seen any change regarding women in the control center, regarding anywhere in NASA or space? Have women same opportunities?
I have seen massive change, huge change. In 1978, I went in the Air Force. I was in the first class of women to go through pilot training at my base. It was Vance Air Force Base in Enid, Oklahoma. And I was the first 4 women ever to go through pilot training. They've been training pilots since World War II, 1943. And so we go in there as the first 4 women. Our flight suits didn't fit, and there was we're talking on the radio, and people are like, oh, here comes the woman, everybody clear the sky out, the women are coming. There were jokes like that. But you know what? The women did great. In fact, it turned out, so I was in a test program, and the test program was, can women fly military aircraft the way men fly military aircraft? And that test program went on for 4 or 5 years, and the Air Force finally yep, women fly just like men, no biggie. And so the women were integrated. And then in 1993, women were allowed to fly aircraft that were coded combat. And before that, we could fly trainers, cargo, administrative, and tankers, but we couldn't fly fighters, bombers, close air support, reconnaissance, anything that would go in a combat zone. Women were not allowed to fly until 1993. So it's really changed a lot. And, I think we need to remember the history of times when women were not allowed to fly, or there were, you mentioned the control center, there might have been 0 or 1 woman in the control center. And so I think it should be the person's ability and how they do in their job performance. And you do that, and you're going to end up with a very diverse group of people. And I'm really happy to see the women who are astronauts now, and flight controllers and flight directors, engineers. I go out and I speak in colleges, and there's so many women engineers. And I tell them engineering is a creative job. It's not all just plug and chug. It is, how are we going to do things better, having an imagination, having ideas. And I think we've come a long way, and things are working out great.
And thanks to you.
Yeah, we can't forget, we don't want to lose that, I want to say, respect that women have got in the workplace. So we'll just keep doing a great job.
Also, I brought a card. It's my mother's birthday. She just landed from London. If you have time to sign it, so I can say that, you know, I love you, it's big space. Sign it, an astronaut. That
Sounds
would be
great.
so
I'll
cool.
be here.
All right. Thank you so
I'll be
much.
here until they kick us out.
Okay, amazing.
Let's have a question from the front.
Yeah,
There's a number of
I guess
who
people
want
are
to
starting to
ask.
form a line back here, so we're
Sorry, guys.
So we're going to have one from the front now, and we'll
Yeah.
go back to the people who
perfect.
have.
Sounds good.
Hey, Eileen and Pat's Mike. So this question's for both of you. Watching the film, by the way, love the book, love the film, awesome. I have to know, Eileen, what were you thinking, and Pat, what were you thinking in the first 30 seconds or minute in the last flight when you found out after 2+ years of working on those tiles, solving that issue, and then right off the bat, a darn tile comes off? I'm just curious. I know you're very clinical and procedure, but I want to hear also what Pat, my golf partner, has to say too. But of all, if it was me, I'd be thinking of all the things, you know, that go wrong. Here we go with the tile thing again. I'm just curious what you were thinking initially when it's a tile issue again.
Yeah, so there were actually two things going on. The first one was the fact that we had a piece of foam fall off on our launch, which, as you heard Paul Hill say, that was the problem that caused the Columbia accident. And then it happened again on my flight. Fortunately, that one didn't hit us. And then the second one was the gap filler that popped out. So we actually had two problems. And I will say Mission Control immediately told us about those problems, so we knew, and that was important. And then we were able to talk with our engineers and our flight directors over the radio. So, you know, it was funny, I felt very confident. I never really thought it was going to be a problem. And this is the psychology of spaceflight, maybe even pilots. Pat can talk about this, but the psychology of a pilot, it's not going to happen to me. It happens to other people. And that's, I think, partly the confidence that pilots have, is that you feel like you have a degree of control. And I like the fact, so we talk about the Serenity Prayer in the film, which is really about control. You have to know what you can control and what you can't control. I felt like, because I had such a good rapport with my flight directors and the team on the ground, I had this tremendous confidence that they knew, because we had been studying this for 2.5 years since the accident, they knew solutions to get us out of these problems. And they did great. And I want to, by the way, I should have said this right at the beginning, but thank you for the team. I know we've got people in here that worked on the shuttle for all those years, and the people that worked in the shuttle program did a tremendously great job. Just the fact that they love what they're doing, they really felt like they were part of a mission. It was such a rewarding career. You can watch, there goes my launch. I got a payload on there, or I worked on this widget or something. And, I think the confidence I had was probably the first thing that comes to mind on that question. And I don't know, Pat, what do you think?
Well, once we saw that the shuttle itself, that relieved a lot of pressure. Actually, the third mission, when I was on headset, the electrical problem, hydrogen leak, and listening to everything that they were saying, that was probably a little more eventful for me. But the last launch, and once again, once you have children, you're more worried about them than you are about anything else. So it wasn't quite as bad as the third launch.
Right, so Robert, back to you.
Yeah. So in order to have time for a meet and greet, unfortunately, we're going to have time for 2 more questions. So we're going to take one more from the back and then maybe one more from the front.
Very good.
Okay.
Sorry. Hi. Okay, my question's kind of dumb, but was the food good or was it bad? And what was your favorite up there?
Yeah, so that is a great question. The food was wonderful. We have a food lab at Johnson Space Center, and the best 2 classes ever in astronaut training is when you go over to the food lab, and so the cooks cook this food for you, and in training they put it all out there, and you have like taste. And then you pick your meals.
Oh.
And I love the food because you can just order the home cooked food. You can also order not home cooked food, but most people don't do that. But I liked salty foods. So chicken and rice, chicken and vegetables, spicy scrambled eggs and things like that. I didn't like sweets in space because you're not burning a lot of energy. Your body really doesn't want sugar. In fact, it tastes the same as on Earth. It's just that you don't want it. You don't want sweets. At least I didn't. And I wanted salty foods because you tend to get dehydrated in space. So anything salty, I loved. So good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
question from here is going to be about spacesuits.
Hello, Eileen. Dr. Louis Carfano, your spacesuit engineer.
Hi, thanks for coming. Good to see you.
Good to see you. For Steve and Saruti, what surprised me when I was assigned to their flight, it was the first time they ever did spacewalks together. So can you tell me what the rationale was to assign them to be the first ones to do EVAs with no experience doing EVAs?
Before the accident, when my crew got assigned in the summer of, see if I can get this, of 2021, we were assigned in the summer of 2021 with a goal to fly in the summer of 2022. Well, the space station was delaying, and it was delaying because, well, I won't go into all the reasons, but so we were eventually scheduled to fly in March of 2003. Well, then the accident happened. And so everything got pushed back. We looked at completely changing the crew. I did not want to change the crew. I knew I had confidence in Steve and Soichi, even though, like, Steve had flown twice before. Soichi was a rookie, but neither one of them had done a spacewalk. I had confidence in them. They had performed excellent in the pool. And my pilot, Jim Kelly, doing a great job. So I wanted to keep that core mission, that core 4 of us on the crew. Now we had to replace 3 crew members, and that was because the 3 that we were originally with launched on the Soyuz. And we added Charlie Camarda, who you saw in the film. We added Charlie, Charlie's got such a great personality. Charlie, and we added Wendy Lawrence and Andy Thomas. So we did make a change there. And you know, one of the things as commander, you want to put confidence in your crew, and you will find that people, it's just human nature. Every once in a while you're like, oh, can I do this? Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to do what people expect me to do? And as commander, I would always want my crew to know I have 100% confidence in you. You are the most appropriate person in the world right now to fly this mission. Nobody can do it as good as you. And you have to have that attitude when you go up there, and you have to have a take charge attitude. If you look at the history of some of these shuttle missions, some of the best ideas have come from the crew that was up there. You know, for example, Dan Brandestein was the commander, and they went up to do this Intelsat, and they couldn't, their tool to grab the Intelsat was not working, so they went, oh, let's send the crew out and they'll just get it with their hands. And it worked. So mission control's like, they talked about it and they're like, okay, we approve of that. And the crew went out and the 3 of them grabbed the Intelsat and brought it in. And I think it was like 1992, or some of you might remember that. So I had full confidence and they did great. They did great. And it's really important that the equipment fits. And I'm just gonna end on that because I know that tends to be a sticking point, but if your equipment does not fit, you're going to have a really hard time doing the mission. So thank you for the question, and I'm going to turn it back over to Keith here.
Well, a big round of applause for the very limited time for meet and greets. Sometimes these have taken 2 hours, and we've got a number of minutes to do this today. So we have to be done by 6:45, don't we? And I think, should we keep Eileen here?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great, so for those who want to say a quick hello, maybe a very, very, very quick photograph, then we're going to have the opportunity. We have to be out of the theatre at 6:45, so if that is a